Welcome everyone. It's 6/7/2016 in Bardstown City Council working session. We'll just go right to the number one, which is the proposed recovery center. And Miss Ballard. Miss Ballard?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you.
Do you want me up there or right here? Or?
Come right up here and propose it to us.
Okay.
I come to my office and asked to be put on the agenda for this proposal. So if y'all want to think about it and look at it, put it in.
Well, first I want to thank you all for giving me and my colleagues the opportunity to come out tonight to speak with y'all. We're pretty excited about this. We'll be speaking about an epidemic that not only affects our nation, our community, but each individual in the homes. I'm speaking about addiction. I'm a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor. Christy is a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor. And we also have Dr. Mariano Galay with us, and he's a psychiatrist, and he specializes in addiction and recovery. Together, we have over 25 years of experience in this field. And we partner together to help combat this epidemic. And also, we partner together to open Embrace Hope Recovery Center. At our center, we not only want to treat the addiction, but we want to treat the individual. And what that means is each of our treatment will be specific to the individual's needs. At Embrace Hope Recovery Center, we plan to offer several services, which include case management, peer support, individual counseling, group counseling, family counseling, and medicated assisted therapy. Dr. Blaine, he'll get more into that in just a few minutes. Also at our center, when we go to treat the individual, we want to make sure all issues are addressed. This may be mental health issues because there is a correlation between mental health and addiction. For example, somebody who has depression, they may treat themselves with an amphetamine to give that up that they need. Or if someone has anxiety, they may need to treat themselves, or they may self-medicate themselves with a downer such as marijuana or alcohol. With all this being said, I'm going to turn it over to Christy, and she's going to speak more about the statistics in our community and the need for our services.
Does anybody have any questions about services so far? What peer support is? Peer support has a significant amount of research behind it that validates the need to have someone who's in recovery coach you. So it's kind of like a sponsor without asking our clients to go to AA or NA. So there's a good amount of evidence that says that can be really helpful.
Yeah.
So there's that case management, targeted case management, is the idea that Cindy or I will help them embrace the other resources in the community. So whether it's obtaining an education, getting help with housing, or whatever need pops up, so that they're treating everything that's going on when they come into recovery, so that they get their feet under them and work on relapse and all those kinds of things.
I did have a question.
Okay.
You said peer
Support?
support, so that's like you have an accountability partner
Yeah.
who probably you keep in touch with on a daily basis.
It could be a peer support specialist is somebody who's kind of been there, done that. So they've combated addiction and they're in recovery themselves.
But there's a certification that comes with that. So we don't go to a meeting and find some sponsor and ask them to come to us. These are people that have had someone validate their experiences, know that they have a good idea of the relapse prevention skills necessary to coach someone else. So they go through a state training, so they're certified through the state and it's a week-long training that's really intensive. And so it creates the understanding, the barrier between what is a therapeutic approach and what is a peer support approach. So we're doing the therapy. The peer support is the, hey, I've been there, I've done that, let me show you what worked for me, and this is some good other coping skills you might need. So it's therapy, support another person who's been there, done that, and then addressing all the other mental health issues, and case management, which is the resources and in some case financial assistance where they're there's some like community action. Well, I've never heard that before. How can I get my electric bill because my electric bill paid because I need help in other ways, and I got help get a job. So it's connecting with other ways, other things too. So we try to get our arms around them as much as we can.
So that they can live a life of sobriety and live a life of recovery.
Find their feet.
Mhm.
What is on this handout, in addition to what we've been speaking about, are just some numbers. So it's a way to reiterate the fact that there is a need here. So we've got some numbers from the city of Bardstown and Nelson County about the drug charges that are coming. I'm sure most everybody in here is aware that addiction is impacting the community. On a personal note, my son buried one of his good friends last weekend because he overdosed, and he's 19. So there are babies that are being affected, and he just graduated high school, and there, from his eyes and his perspective, high school's full of it right now.
Yeah.
So we eventually, in addition to treating the people that are ready to come to treatment, we like to work in prevention efforts in the future as soon as we get stable. We'd also like to reach out to the community in other ways.
Yeah. So we're here, no, we're just here to just let you guys know what we're doing and to increase the awareness of this epidemic and get the community support, and so we can all work together to combat this epidemic.
Will this be another issue of when someone is, say, convicted in the court of law of some sort of drug abuse or whatever, can they be, I guess Tim could answer that, could they be sentenced to go through mandated training and go through you all?
Yes.
Is that what?
If probation and parole, typically, we reach out to probation and parole. We ask them, we educate them on the services we provide. The probation and parole officers have the ability to refer to us once they know what we offer, if they feel like their parolee is a good candidate for our program. And we would validate that they are before we accept them.
How is that going to work with drug court? I mean, is it somewhat the same, or are you going to work in coordination with drug court, or is it going to be somewhat separate?
It would be separate. Drug court and people that are ordered to drug court complete the drug court program. So we're separate from drug court.
Okay.
So it might be a referral, like deferred prosecution or something like that. There could be something where you work with the prosecutor and say, we'll defer prosecution until you get treatment or something like that.
As long as they're appropriate candidates. So our job is to make sure we do a thorough assessment and make sure that they're going to be successful in our program. So for somebody who's needs inpatient, we can talk to you after you've done that. But for us, we want to make sure that the people that we have are going to be successful. They have to be an appropriate candidate. Just like we intend to have our colleague, Dr. Delaney, work with us, who's a psychiatrist. He has the ability to treat opiate dependence as well. So that's another, and opiate epidemic is huge. It's one of the biggest problems going on right now. That's, I think there are some numbers on here that also touch on that a little bit. And Glenn has some information on medication-assisted treatment. So, Dr.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing us to really present this program. I can answer your question. It's a diversion trial program. People have been convicted, so they leave to the drug court, and then before they go to trial, they go to this diversion program. We can provide it. And we can also provide people on drug. To the drug court, we need to know exactly what kind of mechanism they do in the drug court, because basically, the type of treatment that we offer actually, because there's so many groups of population we're going to deal with. Number one, most of the people that comes here to our system are basically voluntary. Because they already hit the rock bottom, they destroyed their family, lost their house, cars, divorced from family member, divorced from his wife, basically homeless. Those are the people who come to us. The other population that mostly come to us, that's what you said, those are convicted felons. Possession of heroin, possession of paraphernalia. You know, in order for the lawyers, they're giving a chance. The judge in Louisville, I'm from Louisville, the judge in Louisville, sometimes there's so many convicted, so they give them a chance for first time, second offense, third offense, things like that, until they throw the book on them. Now, the thing is that what we're doing is that there are basically two types of treatment of substance abuse. One is abstinence-based. People, we know, people with abstinence-based, no drugs involved, chill out, cold turkey. You go to the hospital, we give you Federal if you're vomiting, we give you Clonidine if your blood pressure is high, we give you vitamins if you're having some problems with alcohol, chilliness. Now the question is that really works? because it doesn't really work, because, as you know, it's a revolving door. People go to the hospital. Once they come out, they're in craving mode, they want to use again. People who are on the rehab, once they get out, you probably experienced that, oh, he just got out from the halfway house, and then they're gonna use again. Now, this is what we're gonna enter, because, it is known now in this day and age, addiction is a physical condition. It's not only mental condition, it's a real disease, just like diabetes, just like hypertension, just like cholesterol. You really, really need to form some sort of medication. Right now, the two accepted forms of treatment are buprenorphine / naloxone and methadone. We are going to gear towards Suboxone, which is a combination of buprenorphine and naloxone. What this drug do is actually prevents the craving of the person, just like Vivitrol or naltrexone. The person is not going to be craving anymore if, in addition to that, they go on counseling, and it prevents also people from having having to use again, because when a person uses drugs, what happens? Not economically not only sabotaging the economy, but also the risk of HIV infection, a risk of hepatitis C. Now, we, as a starting group here, if we could work with people who are coming from the hospital and say, look, there's chance you're going to be relapsing. You know why? Because we found out that when you use opiates, OxyContin or Panos, which are very powerful pain medication, it really changes the chemistry of your brain to such a point where once the drug comes out from your system, you have this intense desire to use again. Because what it does, it makes a person euphoric. When they use it, they feel so good, they can function whatever they want. People with chronic back pain, all of a sudden will able to lift things. People with other conditions that pronounce pain, all of a sudden they will start to work again. But the demon behind this is that once it changes the chemistry of your brain, you have this intense craving and intense desire to use again, So it's a never ending. So that's why the medication-assisted treatment program is another form of treatment which basically prevents the person from exhibiting these cravings, exhibiting these withdrawal symptoms. How does it work? Okay, Suboxone, which is a generic term for buprenorphine and naloxone, has a long half-life. Opanas, OxyContin, Lortab, Percocet, their only lifetime is 3 hours. So once you take the Opanas and the Lortab and the OxyContin, they'll be good for 3 to 4 hours. What comes after that? They go into withdrawal. If you really experience what a withdrawal symptom is, you will never want to be in withdrawal, because you have cold chills, you're feeling hot, it's hot outside, you're chilling, and you're in the air conditioning, you're sweating, you're having nausea, vomiting, leg cramps, restless leg. People are so fidgety. You get insomnia, anxiety, agitation, and then depression. So what happens is that you don't want to experience it. Just thinking about your drugs is going to come out after 4 hours really makes you nervous. So what happens? You're thinking about the next fix. How can I do? How can I have the next fix? So what happened? What did the state of Kentucky did to this state of Kentucky? What they did is they had the Kentucky, they call it the new law. It's called the Office of the Drug Control Policy. What did they did? They make things harder for OxyContin or Panos to be purchased in the streets because of the PDMR. It's called prescription drug monitoring. Doctors are well aware that if you prescribe this, you got to refer to this CASPER, the PDMR. Otherwise, you're going to be punished. So what happened is that they changed this OxyContin or Panos to what? To heroin. Why? Number one, it's easy to get access. You don't need to have a prescription to get it. Number two, it's cheaper. Number three, it's more potent. And number four, it gives you more euphoria. So now, that's why heroin became, there's a research of the heroin. I remember when I was a resident 20 years ago, it was a problem in New York, the heroin. Now it's a problem here. We cannot ignore this anymore. I hope that with my small talk here, it kind of enlightened you guys that, this is an epidemic and this affects the whole facet of society. And as a medical director in Louisville, most of our patients are mostly construction worker. We have nurses, we have lawyers. So I was amazed, people who have never been involved with this, and then once they get better with medication, the only appreciative I feel is whenever I see somebody, they will shake my hands and say, "You saved my life, thank you. I'm back to my family." They regain back their confidence, they regain back their family, and they regain back their house. So
Dr.
when
Henry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're coming close to the 15 minutes, and I didn't know if you had anything else that you wanted to share with
that's
the
all.
council.
Anything, sir, anything in particular you want to ask the council, the city for anything, or just to inform us of what's going to happen?
What we want is if we open a practice like this, that we're not gonna have some objections for you guys. And let's give it a try and see what happens.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Council, you had an opportunity, Kathy sent out to you 2 zoning suggestions in regard to Nukem Oil and BG Ventures. Didn't know if any of you had any objections to those zoning requests that would have to be brought to the council for the next meeting. No one? Okay, I'll let them know. Thank you.
Mayor's report, I guess. If you guys have had a chance to go up there and look at the Bardstown Community Park, Ben and those public works guys have been hard at work. It's no longer hills and hollows. They have terraced it to look like an amphitheater type situation, so where people can sit flat. It looks really good, and I think y'all should go up there. News media, I think you should go up there and look at it. It's not like it used to be, so it'd be easier and more accommodating for the older people to sit and listen to the music. So the other thing is the mosquito spraying machine will be taken to Elizabethtown tomorrow to be adjusted. It's free. It doesn't cost nothing. The company does it for the life of the machine, the life of that you have it. He does it for free, and it needs to be calibrated every year. We will start that program, and there will be no list for no sprays. We're not going to have a no list. So we're not going to do that this year. We're not going to start that. So we'll go to number 3, and the administrative, the finance, and personnel, the proposed budget FY 16-17.
I did present your letter, Mayor. I don't know. You do have that?
Did everyone get the letter that I sent out?
Yeah, hand it out to me.
We just got it.
Well, I'm ready to start. I'm going to kind of repeat what I said last week and add a few other thoughts on it. Before we, I guess let's all agree that the budget we're speaking of is the one that's on our iPads, which is the last one that Tracy gave us last week, I guess it was last week. So that when we talk about additions or subtractions, we know what our basis is. So I think we can all agree with that. Of course, it shows a negative, it shows a deficit, which we know we can't do. That's kind of I'll kind of take part of that credit. So looking at that budget, again, I'm going to kind of go over some of the things I went over last week and add a few other thoughts. Again, starting with administration, regarding the, I think our budget needs to be pretty tight. We don't have a lot of revenue to work with, so I'm going to make some suggestions to some reductions in the existing budget. Starting with the wages, we have the proposed budget has a 3% wage increase for those over $20 an hour and 4% for those under. I'm going to suggest we change that to 2% and 3%, which is a reduction of $151,000 in the proposed budget. I'd still like to add the $7,000 for councilman training. I think we need to do that. I still think we should remove the proposed new groundskeeper that is in the administration. I think we can get by for at least a year without that. I suggest we remove the pumper truck from the fire department because the result in the general fund of $35,000 at the end of the year is just simply, we can't do that. The street department, originally I was okay with the 600 grand for the streets because Parkway Drive takes about half of that, but recently Jessica indicated that they're doing some additional paving this year that hadn't been planned. So I wonder if we could reduce that from 600,000 to 100,000. Again, just trying to keep the budget tight. This budget we're looking at has the existing cost for dispatch, which was the higher amount we agreed on that we put.
Did you say reduce it by 100,000?
My
The
apologies.
street paving,
Yeah.
reduce it by 100,000?
Yeah.
Or take it down to 100.
You said take it down from 600 to 100,000.
Okay.
From 600 to 500.
Okay,
I was
thank
like,
you.
wow, that's, we won't get nothing
I
done.
misspoke. Well, as long as it be my street.
Thank you.
I mean, no, it was two 500.
So it goes from 6 to 5.
To 5, yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
Which is more in line with which we've historically done. The dispatch cost, again, looking at the budget as it's written, has the higher cost in it. And given the recent fiscal court actions, I would suggest we could reduce that to the lower of the two costs, which was 159, 149,000, which either way we go would be about the same. And then on the revenue side, you know, we talked about the utility dividends. I would suggest, since we, as I mentioned last year, these utility dividends, or we just about used them all up, rather than having a utility dividend of $1 million in the budget, I would rather replace that with general revenue funds, which would mean tax increases, which we have to do in September. But we can make the change and then I take the action in September to affect that change. That is, once we make these changes, you know, if we took that $1.8 million out, then we'd have to replace that with general revenue funds, which would be tax increases. So I'm open to discussions on that. And
Tax increases, occupation tax?
or whatever. You know, we looked at those four options last year, we wore them out, and we can look at them again. So I really don't know exactly what that would be yet.
I have one question, Councilman.
So I'm done.
On that 159 veteran account, I thought that was supposed to, should have been 144.
I don't have the number in front of me, Francis, whatever that,
Yes,
whatever that lower number is.
Well, when the county, what did I do with it? It was supposed to be 144, it was $13,000 cheaper from KSP.
Whatever the higher of the two numbers is.
Right, okay, that was,
I think 159 would be the higher. of the
that
two.
was a county, but the calculation from the county, it was about 144,000. And also, since we own this issue, on this 911, I kind of disagree with Larry and the mayor on the saving that we're supposed to be receiving from Kentucky State Troop. Since we're not going to Kentucky State Troop, I will not comment, but if we go to county, I have no problem. But if we go to Kentucky State Police, I will comment on that because some information Larry and the mayor gave, I think it could be misleading. So if we're not going with Kentucky State Police, I have no comment on the Kentucky State Police.
Anything on the budget?
Well, I can go along with you. What's the total? Because that budget did have a $235,000 deficit and no mayor. Well, let me correct the mayor. You indicated at the last meeting it was a council budget. This is not the council budget. This is the mayor budget. So I'd like to correct you from what you said at the last meeting, Mayor, you indicated it's council budget. This is not the council, it is your budget. It's not our budget. I just want to correct you, okay?
Well, let's move on with the numbers.
But anyway, I'm not through it. So we did have a deficit of $235,000. And if you do the calculation from the combined utility revenue from 2015, you still have a deficit. By transferring some of the funds over, you have $20,000 left. And if you do the calculation, this budget is not a balanced budget.
Ms.
So,
Tracy,
okay, go ahead.
Tracy's got a
You-
question.
Okay. I'm gonna take the heat on that one. Not putting the dispatch numbers in there originally, and after putting them in there, that's what made it a negative.
I'll accept your apology, Francis.
I was just gonna, can I go next, or are you finished?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not through, but you can go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just get my thoughts together. You can go ahead.
Okay. Councilman Hagan, I agree with you on everything that you just said. But I have a couple of questions as well. The police cars that were totaling $200,000, could we delay that till next year? The police cars, could we delay and just get one or two instead of four?
If I can intercede, I had all the cars brought this morning with the mileage, active units that are being operated, that are on the, we've got 1, 2, 3 that at the maximum on them, 91,500, 91,700. We have 96,049 still on the fleet being used. We've got 1, 2, 3 officers that has no units. We're going to have at least in our detective is out of a car. If you want to go ahead and finish, then I'll get my scenario on it.
Well, okay, let me ask a question. What is
We're looking at, if we strike 50,000 out of their budget, out of the 200, that'll give them 3 new cars, 1 less than we normally appropriate, and 1 used car. If we sell a Forester car that we can sell and take that money combined with another roughly 12,000, after we got the state contract bids on the cars to equip on the road, we roughly about 12,000 left. That gives about 15,000 buy a used car for the detective. That'll give us 3 new and keep us about where we're at with all good units.
what's the mileage supposed to be? I mean, what's it not supposed to go over? Or?
Well, when I retired, I drove 130,000 miles, but I mean, it was falling apart and unsafe, and cars wear out faster as a police unit because, especially in the city, you do a lot of stop, start, a lot of left and right, and it's wear and tear on the frames, wear and tear on the ball joints, excuse me, and wear and tear on the vehicle more so than when the state police drive long distance road. So about 100,000, we're looking at, your maintenance fees is more than the cost of keeping the car on the street.
So we could not get away with doing 2 vehicles instead of 4?
We need 3 we got 3 new officers and they don't have cars yet. And thus we're gonna put them in a car with 90,000 mile or one of the pool cars, which has 86,000. One, the odometer doesn't even work and it's older than others. Only thing that we have is a pool car with 44,660 that, you know, and we're having problems with the Caprices with a lot of maintenance problems. So we're probably not gonna go back to Chevrolet, we're gonna go back Ford. And I still think.
What kind of vehicles are we looking at?
Ford Interceptors. Full police package, lights installed, everything installed out of the factory.
Years ago, they had a federal study done by the federal government about police vehicles and maintained. Around 80 to 90,000 that vehicle should be kind of more or less overhauled, and you should rotate these vehicles out. Those vehicles, these guys spend 12 hours a day in them. That's their personal office. That's their life support if they get in a pursuit, or, you know, it'd be no different than asking you to throw away your, these tablets or your copy machine, go back to paper copies. The police department had a good program to set up to where they rotate 4 cars a year to get up to that, where we're gonna have new officers come out. I think if you cut that short, I think you're cutting that program, and we'll be back to where it was when Bill and I policed, where you go and sit into a car that's broken down, should be in a junkyard somewhere, and I think that's unsafe.
Under state contract, we've got police package, standard features on the police interceptor, 2016 model. That's with all the light bars, sirens, so forth. I just had to put the radio in it. Pre-wired, pre-everything. You're looking at $38,450 per unit. By the time we get the radio put in, you're looking around $39 per unit. On a Crossroads Ford Lincoln, I think they have a state contract, the government contract on it.
So we need 4 of those?
Well, I'm still for backing them up to 150, cut 50,000 down to 200. That'd give them 3 new ones and a good used car for the detective. And that'd keep us afloat until we see if our revenue is better next year.
Okay. The next thing I had a question about, the City Hall rear parking lot improvement. It's listed here for 150, I think it's 120, is that correct?
Yeah, I spoke with Jessica.
Mhm.
She initially said 150, but she said it could probably be done.
Is that something that we could do next year?
That would be a very question on.
Yes.
Yes? I mean, that's 120,000. I have another thing. The police department, we have flex team expenses, 10 rifles, $16,500, and flex team expenses uniforms, $4,000. Do we need those 10 rifles that are $16,500? I'm asking you, Bill, because
My suggestion on the rifles was to cut it back to 6,500 or 6,500. You can buy good serviceable weapon, new weapons. You can put 10 guns on the street for about 6,500.
okay.
I'm gonna ask the city clerk, not to be butting it, since we on this rifle, is that a bid in, you're talking about $6,000, would that have to be bidded?
Yes, for the price of the rifles?
Yes.
Yeah, it's under.
It's under 20,000, it does not have to be bid.
Okay, you go ahead.
Okay.
I was thinking something else.
And then the uniforms, is that for new, I mean, help me out here because I'm not familiar with that.
Get Lieutenant Brad Gillett to talk about rifles and the uniforms.
Referring back to the uniforms, when the team got initially started by Chief McCoven, we bought the uniforms and the duty belts, everything for everybody. Nothing has been purchased since then.
When was that?
Initially got started, I want to say, it was right before Jason Nelson's murder. Because he was on the original team for the flex team for Bardstown. But whenever everything finally got purchased and everything, that was in 2013, early part of 2013. Again, since then, we train minimum one time a month. Every one of our members have gone to multiple trainings since then, and it simply comes down to wear and tear on uniforms, getting holes in them, belts.
Is this $4,000, is that specific, is that the actual cost, or can we find these cheaper elsewhere?
If you go cheaper, you get what you pay for, basically. Yes, we could probably find a $20 uniform.
Well, I'm just thinking of bidding, like, you know, the military. You know, we try to look at 3 different divisions and see
Right.
who's got the best best cost. $4,000 is $4,000, so
Right.
I don't want you to shortchange yourself, but if we're thinking of the budget, it's gonna be pretty tight.
Correct. I can say for me, if you give me a dollar figure, I'll get the best quality I can for what I can work
But
with.
this is the figure that you know that you
Yes.
can get all the uniforms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. The next one is the fire department. I did agree with the pumper truck, 650,000. On here, I see the purchase for volunteer uniform shirts, chief,
Yes, ma'am.
$20,000. Can you explain that, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Currently, the only thing we furnish our volunteers is a T-shirt. We are, the recruits we have now, plus the one volunteers we have currently, we are going to require them to start spending time at the fire station. So we want them to be in a comparable uniform, just one uniform per person to do that. The other thing with that money is we are asking to go to a better uniform. The ones we wear now are polyester cotton blend, which is flammable, and we're proposing to buy Nomex, which is a fire-resistant material in the uniforms. It's a safety issue. I think electric linemen wear a certain type of clothing. Even police have, bulletproof vests. This is another layer of protection for our firefighters. The other thing I did want to point out with the reduction of the pumper truck, when I went line item by line item of what was still proposed, we were still reducing our budget by $31,000 versus what we have in our current fiscal year, which is about 2% reduction for us.
So the uniforms, what is it per unit then, cost per unit? You're saying one uniform per person?
Yes, and the Nomex is about $200. That's $100 for pants, $100 for shirt. It's a pretty rough estimate.
So if we propose to cut this, you would still be able to get the uniforms?
No, ma'am. I mean, we would be able to outfit our people plus the volunteers that's the reason we asked for the increase, was to be able to go to the better quality uniform, the safer uniform, and also to, in conjunction with that, outfit our volunteers. That's what the total budget estimate was including.
But with your new uniforms, you're saying you can still buy those, you're still gonna be 2% less than you were last year?
That's correct. If you go...
Even though buying these uniforms, that's...
Right, because
there's no mix.
we went through the budget this year that we proposed, and we went line item by line item to be as realistic as possible with every line item. So some we increased and some we decreased. And when you do the increase and decrease and you add both columns up, we still decreased the overall operating budget by $31,000.
I truly believe in safety, okay? I mean, that, I've served on many committees for safety.
Sure.
But right now, $20,000 is $20,000. I mean, you're talking about uniforms, I mean, going through everyone that needs something. I don't know, this is just me, but I don't see that, unless you could possibly shop around and.
We have, yes, and that's...
Can I get some figures, something like that on that, please?
Yeah, we looked at two different options. We also looked at renting the uniforms and having them like a company, their professional laundering services. There are some advantages cost-wise on the front end, but long-term,
Could that be an option for a year or two, so we can get things straightened out with our budget? Like, I know Cintas does the same thing.
that's one.
Okay, yes.
We have a bid from.
Very familiar with
Yes,
that.
yep.
Is there any way that we could do that for a year or two to get?
Not with the better quality uniforms. So I'm saying we can rent for a little less, but it's not significantly different from purchasing.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have another one, the electric department. You have a lineman apprentice on here. Is there any way that we could train someone that's already there, or do we have to hire someone this year for the lineman apprentice? That's $60,403.
You don't have to, but we've got,
Someone's retired?
yes.
Is there anyone within the ranks that we can use as an apprentice, or Maybe because the front lifters shift them over, I don't know, I'm just thinking. Is that something that we have to have though right now?
Well, the short answer is no, you don't have to have it. But you may wish you had when we get short, but, so.
When this guy comes up and says, I'm retiring in 30 days, you gotta find a replacement, and then you're behind the 8 ball instead of.
The idea of an apprentice is that you may find someone who lives here, that you don't have to import a trained lineman, and that somebody would stay with you, and you're training from the ground up, and to replace others. So that was the logic for that.
Okay. All right. And then we have the water, this is the same thing I would suppose. We have someone retiring from the water department, the water treatment plant operator, training, $39,600. Is that a position that we could not have for a year or two?
Or have forever. Again, it's a similar answer. We've got 1 or 2 people that are approaching retirement, and it's the same thing. And so trained operators are hard to find and take so many years to fill them up. And so,
I believe there was a lot of the vacation that was being filled in and had to have a class 1 operator. I know Jessica talked about that quite a bit. They were doing a lot of overtime, so it's.
Okay. Thank you. And I had a question. I know we talked about this in one of our committee meetings. Can you refresh me on the S4 GAC media trial? It's the water, I believe. Sewer, is it? Okay. It's $110,000. I couldn't remember what that was about.
so where are you though? In Kaplan or?
Yes, capital improvement.
So go on with your next, and I'll try to find that. So, do you remember the media?
And I just have one more
It's in
question.
water or sewer?
I see it in water.
Okay, maybe that's where.
Page 15, line 7300.
The media that we're going to try in water is activated carbon. I don't know if that's AC, I thought it said AC, but anyhow, activated carbon media is, we use powdered carbon, and we're talking about going to granular activated carbon, and those filters are more expensive, they do a better job. We're having troubles with our chlorinated byproducts, and with that treatment method with granular activated carbon filters, and I say they spent $30 million in Danville building a new plant with that. We're spending maybe $1 million over a few years. That you don't put chlorine in the treatment unit, therefore you will reduce the amount of disinfecting byproduct in the product, and that's why we're doing it, and we feel like we're forced to do it to stay within compliance.
Okay,
And I need to remind you all that we have to finish this meeting in 15 minutes.
Can we, what's the term?
Recess.
Recess and then come back?
I was going to suggest that.
Second.
I think you could do that, sure.
That might be a good idea to do.
okay. Larry, I just got one more thing. It's this is it. The paint for Withrow tank, $410,000. Can you refresh me on that one?
Well, that would be the tank that's catty-cornered from Sazerac Richardson, the Barnes thing. Old Bardstown, Katy Corner, the big tank there on Winthrop Court. And it's a million-gallon tank, and it's an expensive tank, and it hasn't been painted. It needs painting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Williams, you have something?
Thank you, Mayor. As far as raises are concerned, I liked what we initially talked about, 2 or 3%, but I feel like 2% is probably more appropriate right now considering our situation. I think that would save about $92,000.
Excuse me, bro, I'm trying to understand. Are you saying change the, right
In
now?
other words, 2% across the board.
Rather
2% across.
than breaking it up.
Yeah, and I like the idea, I really did, but I'm just trying to save us some money right now. 2% across the board, instead of 7 for the council, it would be 6. 6 divided into 6 goes a lot easier.
On the last said 7.
Yeah.
Which is 7 next year, I guess.
Yeah.
I meant 6.
Were you including me?
As far as the water capital projects, is there some way we can bond those instead of taking that money out of our reserve? And then the expense would still be there, but we would still have some money?
We can definitely do that. I did contact Chip as an option, Chip Sutherland with Hillary Lines, and I do have a printout that I can give to the council on that.
Okay, that would help out tremendously. How feasible would it be for the fire truck that we just approved to maybe see about getting a loan for that and paying that over 5 to 7 years?
I did ask, you can't get a loan now for it. However, the fire department will have to pay that back over a certain amount of years, back to the reserves. So every year would be an expense in their budget.
Okay. One thing we're gonna have to address, Mayor, when went to the full-time fire department last year, that's adding on to the budget because it's something that wasn't scheduled, let's say. And that's adding north of 300,000 on the budget.
Around 375
Okay.
in wages.
And so we've got to put a funding mechanism in place that's going to take care of that. And I think there's even some added costs with the police. So we're going to have to think in terms of that as we look at this budget here. And concerned about our cash on hand, it's pretty low. So that should be a lot higher than it is. Let's see here. A lot of the other things have already been mentioned. So, like Fred said, we're gonna have to probably look at some kind of funding mechanism to come up with some money. I'd hate to agree with you, Fred.
Next, Mayor.
That's about it.
Okay, I'll be quick. Line 5120, the groundskeeper, let's strike that one. I think Tourist Commission asked for a groundkeeper also. We need to strike that one also. No groundkeeper for either. The Main Street Tourist Commission got a $534,000, over $500,000 pass through this year. I believe they can afford their own groundkeeper and control them. The other strike would be reduced by $4,000. The contingency plan or the contingency fund go to individual $1,000 each to be used individually, non-transferable. And so, like I said before, strike $50,000 on the police. That'll give them 3 cars and 1 used.
Let me interrupt you, what do you mean not transferable?
You use it or you lose it. And let everybody else use it.
Okay. So if you do the 6,000, Bobby has 1,000. you
That's
can't
right. He
give
uses
him-
his 1,000, I use my 1,000, after that, you go on your own. The police, we start at 10,000.
Tracy's got something.
Is the contingency, are you in favor of adding for the council training and keep the contingency at 10, or you want to reduce?
Oh, the council training.
Okay, but leave the contingency at 10, like it has been, or?
Or you just want to give
I thought
each
that-
council member $1,000, like, that's what you were saying?
It's like what Fred said,
For training.
For
for
training.
training.
I think you were talking about a separate line
I'm
item.
talking about separate line items. I thought it was the same, but anyway,
I mean, that-
I'm all for removing the contingency altogether if it's a separate line item. And this funding to the public, I still think it needs to go back to the tourist commission. If the festivals and stuff, if they need money to operate,
Bill, I'm gonna repeat what you said for clarification. Just get rid of the contingency
Yes.
line item and
Yes.
add a training item,
Yes.
6,000, 1,000 each.
Yes.
Okay, that's your proposal. Okay.
Because I think in the past, I think we had talked about just getting rid of the contingency fee altogether, correct?
Well, it's been discussed, I didn't mention it, but, you know,
That's what you-
that's what I meant, sorry.
So what you want to do is, to make this clear, is
6,000 for the council.
get rid of the contingency
Training.
fee and have
Get rid of the
$1,000
contingency
fees for training.
Right.
Okay.
Moving on. 18,000 strike from fire. On the uniforms, go back to the 21,900 on it. The fire,
Say that again, I'm sorry.
ma'am,
Can you say that again, what you just said?
the line item was, last year was like 21, they went to 40,000. 18,000 increase for uniforms that you were talking about.
Is that the same thing you were talking about?
Yes.
That was the increase.
The strike on them. I think we can wait a year on the uniforms to fire resistance up. Strike the pumper truck for this year. See if we got additional revenue for next year. What Fred's talking about, see if we can work it in that way. Electric truck, give them the digger truck they've been waiting for 6 years. But the good thing about it, they got $318,000 back from the FEMA refund for the old Bloomfield Road. I don't know if Tracy can say if they can buy the digger truck out of the $318,000 that came back from FEMA, therefore freeing up the $210,000 for the truck, and then have the old truck go to the water and sewer for $20,000 purchase from the water and sewer department for their use to use at the water plant to put the pumps and so forth out that they've been using the digger truck for all along. They need a truck, that way they'll leave the electric truck alone. I agree with Fred on the 2% employee raises, 2% over 50,000 with, that's the base salary, and 3% under 50,000, that's base salary. Let's see, I'm okay with the paving, we gotta keep that, we're behind on paving. And anything that deals with infrastructure, we need to work on.
Bill, question, would you go along with the reduction of the 600,000 to 500,000 on the pavement?
If it'll get the job done, but we've got to do that industrial park's got to be paved, we're looking at part of it.
And, you know, Jessica's on vacation, so I didn't get to ask her this, but I know she sent us out the email that we've done more paving this year than we planned. I kind of made an assumption there, I tried to call it.
As long as we as a council stay on board with keeping this, getting caught up on this blacktopping and sidewalks, which is the infrastructure
Yeah, I agree.
that we've let go, I think that's what we need. If we reduce it 100,000, so be it. But we need to stay vigilant to the infrastructure.
Yeah.
But let me say something, of course, this is your budget here that what you're going to vote on, but on that new Thai America, then you have the new distillery coming out there, you're talking a lot of trucks in a day. Probably when this Thai America gets up, it's 20, 25 trucks a
Oh,
day.
definitely that needs to be paid.
And it has to be taken care of, so probably, did you want to wait and talk to Jessica and Larry?
Yeah, well, we're not making a decision, right?
Okay.
But, you know, that's for discussion.
Mr. Simpson, go right ahead, sir.
All right. I agree with the percentage you're talking about, 2% across, but I don't agree with it percentage-wise. I think it ought to be, figure out whatever that amounts to for everybody, and whatever it comes to, everybody gets the same. If it's 10 cents, everybody gets 10 cents. That's thoughts on that, because when you go percentage, the little guy just keeps getting further and further and further. I understand that you say you're gonna lose your high-priced people, but the high-priced people are the ones making the money now. But that's just my thoughts on that. I agree with Fred on the pumper truck, the paving. I agree we should drop 100,000 on that. The 911, I believe we ought to put at least whatever the top figure is, with 159, 57, whatever that is, leave that in there. The digger truck, I think a digger truck, and we don't need the digger truck. If we were using this truck every day like normal, or like this truck, what concerns me about this truck, the last time not the last time, time before last this was brought up, we went out to look at the truck. We got out there with a mechanic working on the truck. He was up on the truck. And right off the bat, he wanted to sell us the truck, said it's a good truck, why get rid of it? Now, whether it's our mechanic, I don't know, but that's what the man done, and I got, and another councilman was with me on the truck, but I'm against the truck. Flex team, I don't know whether we ought to move on that now. We got a new chief, or gonna have a different chief, maybe that chief doesn't want to have a flex team. I'm not that familiar with it, other than the demonstration and the talk that they gave us one night not too long ago. Seems like a good thing to me, but who knows? This chief may not want it. Groundskeeper, I think ought to strike in. Contingency, I want the contingency personally, I want it completely out of there. And put it in as a training tool. If it's $1,000, that's fine for each council. On the street, we got $2 million, or at least the way I see it here, $2 million for the purchase of land, because we don't have enough room. Well, we got plenty of land out here at the new sewer plant.
Well, that's not in this year, that's not in next year's budget.
It's in 2017.
It's not in the budget.
No.
It's just there.
It got pulled.
It was pulled. It was just to make aware.
Well, if it's not in there, it's not in there, but what I've got here says 2017. So, but anyhow, if it's not in there, it's not in there. That's my thoughts.
We're down to 4 minutes. Do you want us to
I
spend
think I
this?
could get mine through in 4 minutes there.
We can't do
We
four,
can't
we
do
can
all.
do three, go.
3? Okay, go. I have a question for a lieutenant in the back. I got a question for you related to this flex team. We didn't have it in the budget last year. It's going to cost somewhat $60,000. My question is, you could be called out of city for a few days, and you could be called out for a week. City of Bardstown would have to pay the expense, right?
Initially, yes, sir.
Okay, I agree with Councilman Simpson. I think we need to study that, because $60,000, and taxpayers have to pay you guys, gonna be out of town for a week or two, and taxpayers in Bardstown have to pay for that?
Councilman,
Tracy?
there's only 20,000 that they're requesting for the flex team.
No, I'll tell you what, you are mistaken. I have a copy here that says $50,000. I mean, $60,000. If you go through the line item, you go through all the line
Right,
items.
some of those are MVPs for the new personnel. That has nothing to do with the flex team.
We had a safety committee meeting.
Okay, we gotta stop. We're at 6 o'clock.
I make a motion, we go into recess.
Well, we don't make motion, we're just gonna recess. Yes, sir.
We're going into
But we do have to
recess.
go right in 2 minutes into another meeting.
All right.
Going into recess.
Just 2 seconds, 2 minutes.
We're back into the working session
I think
again.
Mr. Lydian wanted to go first.
That's okay.
That's where he left off. We're back to the working session.
I need a second.
just the budget, we're just talking budget.
Still? Do we still have zones?
Are we back in session?
Councilman Liddy, take off.
Did you have
Where
something?
left off.
Yeah, I forgot what I did say.
That's not surprising.
All the police officers left out here now, because I was asking Lieutenant questions.
They had to go get their can and string.
That's okay. Let somebody else talk. I can talk to them.
I have one question. I think it's me actually. The police on the detail sheet, where we're talking about flex, it said MDTs for new personnel. Now, we didn't mean like hiring somebody. We meant somebody that's going to be trained in the flex, right?
No, MDTs, those are the computers that are in the cars.
Yeah, that had nothing to do anything with flex.
No,
It says,
I don't know why it's in the
it says
line.
new personnel.
Yeah, we have the 3 new officers, and when they get a unit, they won't have
MDTs.
We need new ones for them.
Each car should
The
have
computers
their
in the
own
car.
MDTs, which is computers where they can run tags, run NCIC. They write citations and check for warrants and individuals.
Councilman Williams. Councilman Williams.
So I stand corrected, that wasn't flexible.
No, it's not, but Rick told me there was 3 units. It might say for new personnel, but he said there was 3 cars that did not have the MVPs, and that's why he was requesting them.
Answer my question. Thank you.
And that's another issue where you have to keep up. When you get cars, you have to have those MDTs. You got to keep them up. They got to be in every car.
Well, the point I'm making on that purchase, you got MDT in the unit, they do their accident reports while the record's coming, they're doing the reports while they're still on scene, they keep more officers on the street. They don't have to go back to dispatch or go back to the PD, do the reports, stand around, human nature, they can stay their full shift in their car.
And they can also receive the information,
Yes.
information.
As soon as you run that tag, it pops up on the screen, tells them who that car is, who owns it, if they got a concealed carry weapon, if they got any warrants on them, it's automatically going to pop up right when they're stopping that car. And that's officer safe.
It's very necessary.
Very necessary.
I'd like to make a suggestion. Or maybe it's a question. We have a equipment fund, is that correct, Tracy?
We do.
Okay. For future reference, why wouldn't the fire department transfer money to the equipment fund and every year after that to save money for big equipment, things that they need? Because once that money is in there, it can't be touched, right?
Right.
Okay. I mean, wouldn't that be an appropriate avenue to go down, that they take that measure so that they can build for those particular items that they may need down the road?
You would use the capital sheets if they know that they're gonna need something in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Then they can
Long-term
start-
planning.
Long-term, then they can start adding towards these funds that would be used later for.
I think that's good. I mean, I think that's something that they should look at.
Okay. What I would like to do before we leave here is try to gain a consensus on what we've agreed on and what we maybe haven't agreed on. So it gives Tracy some idea of how to rewrite this budget for our vote next. So if everybody's okay with that, I'm going to go down my list, and I'm going to start with the things I think we have a consensus on that we agreed to. We'll start with we're going to add $6,000 for the councilman training. I'm going to come back to the wages because there was different ideas on that. We're going to add $6,000 for councilman training. We're going to remove the new groundskeeper. So-
Could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Once you make a suggestion, if you could look around the room
Okay.
and see if you have consensus?
I should have looked around. and I
Thank
saw.
you. For the
I was waiting for somebody to say, no, that's not what.
Okay.
Okay. No pumper truck, taking that out. I suggested changing the $600,000 for the streets to $500,000. But I said I would talk to Jessica first, so if you'd like, we'll just leave that, or we can change it to 500,000.
Yeah, leave it at 600 right now.
Okay, that's okay with me. We'll leave it at 6 and I'll talk to Jessica about that. Let's see. The police cars, whatever that line item is, we're going to reduce that by $50,000. That was, you guys talked about that. Larry, Keisha asked about the parking lot of 120,000 versus 150, about doing that next year, putting off a year. You said yes. You said that pretty, were you just resigned to that, or is that something you agreed we could put off for a year?
Well, we can take about a year to design.
Okay. Okay. So we'll take that out and we'll design. And we won't hire anybody to design. Let's see. On the flex team, you were talking about rifles of reducing the $16,500 to $6,500.
Yes, take 10,000 straight.
Okay. The $20,000 for the uniform, I don't think we did on that.
No.
Lineman apprentice, 60,000, we were going to leave that in, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. We talked about bonding the water plant improvements, so that's just something we'll have to look into.
And she said we could do that, she's already checked.
The what is it?
The
Bonding the capital water project.
doing a bond rather than taking it out.
I checked with doing a bond and I'm waiting on KIA. It's 2 options.
So for now, we'll just leave it in the budget as it is, and if that changes, we can change that. We're going to get rid of the contingency altogether, and we already talked about putting in the training.
One question, let me have a question. Does the mayor have a contingent, so we getting rid of the mayor contingent also?
It's just for council.
Just for council.
That was just for
Mine,
council.
The mayor's.
I don't think that we should get rid of the contingency fund. I truly do not think that that's a wise option. I just don't. And then, I mean, you're talking about taking that away, and I'm just thinking in the future for whoever comes in. I just don't.
I'm okay with it.
I think it should stay as a line item.
I'm okay with it.
We've got restrictions in place now that.
We have to vote on it every time we do it. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with leaving it in, unless somebody else has a,
That's okay, leave it in.
and okay, so we'll leave it.
So you're gonna use the contingency as the training also? or
No,
you're just
no,
gonna-
no.
You're gonna leave it in, okay.
So it'll be used for like,
Whatever we
No,
want to do.
no. Buttermilk, festivals, then what do we?
Well, or whatever we vote for. We might use it at all.
That's right, I didn't use it all.
We've got more restrictions now, so
We might not use it.
If a donation request comes in, you all have in place now an actual form and a municipal order that dictates how those funds are allocated.
Or we might want to buy a banner to put on the
Right.
front of the building or
Right.
something, to celebrate something. You know, it's,
The new dispatch agreement.
Okay. Yeah.
or something like that.
We'll have a party.
Maybe some, okay, I'm gonna back up to the wages. When we talk about wages, right now, there's 3% in for people over $20 an hour and 4% for people under. I suggested changing that to 2% and 3%. You said 2% for everybody.
I said 2 to 3, 2 to 3. 2% over 50,000, 3% under.
Greg, can I say something?
Yeah.
If we say 2% across the board, the people that, like, I'm speaking in reference to customer service, they'll never catch up. You continue to give them 2%, they'll never catch up. Only thing that we could do is ask that a specific wage be given to them so that they could catch up. And I think that's unfair for them. You know, when you're talking about, how many salaried people are there? 10, 12 people?
10 to 12, I think.
I mean, I think 3% for them is fair.
I agree. When I looked at the 3% and 4%, I talked to Mary about this, about how do we, and Tracy, how do you, it's a constant question that any employer has. How do you keep your high people, and, you want to say something?
With 4%, I was asked to look at Public Works and get the garbage tippers up to $14. Some of that for them was the 4%, some of it was not, so all those have been pushed up to 14. So if that's something you want to keep in there, I need to know too.
Can you run a couple of different scenarios, because with some of the other things we're talking about, if they come to fruition, then our reserves aren't going to look as bad. But right now, they don't look very good.
Right.
So if you can just come up with a couple of different scenarios, then we've got some options we can look at in black and white.
Yeah, I know, I asked Tracy to change it from 3% and 4% to 2% and 3%, and it was $151,000 less.
Is there a separate action that has to be taken to raise the salaries? The amendment to the wage?
Not
or-
for a percentage.
As long as they're in their range, as long as they're in their range.
Well, in other words, if you budget it, is it effective, is I guess what I'm saying?
Yes.
The budget amendment, well, okay. I was gonna say, if it's not, if it takes separate action, you can hire a number.
It's budgeted, and then right before we do the raises, the mayor looks at all of them and basically the budgeted amounts that we put in there, and he signs off on it.
Okay.
If I were to pick a number and make our job, or Tracy's job easier, to satisfy Bobby and Bill and Keisha and all of you, like we've done it many times, we've had certain blocks to satisfy Councilman Simpson's concern, that anybody that makes, let's say, from $10 to $20 gets 4 or 40 cents an hour, or maybe 4%. The next range gets another. I think we did three blocks one year, and they got discrete cents per hour raises based on this kind of 3 different groups. It doesn't have to be that, but we've been down this road numerous times, and it isn't fair, as you point out. So if she can do what was suggested, but it helps if what I would like to see you do is leave it at the 2.5% and see where it takes you. If you further want to cut it, then further cut it.
2.5% across.
Because it won't do much for the little or the big to cut it down to where you said. It won't be much. I mean, the little, if she puts that $14, which we've said for the garbage man, at certain minimum thresholds, that'll eat it all up, and there won't be much for others, so.
Well, why 14? Who said 14? Why is that a magic number? Somebody explain this.
Public Works Superintendent Ben came to me, came to the mayor and asked about getting his men, because it's hard to keep garbage tippers making a low salary.
Offer to say that you're losing policemen to the county and you're losing garbage men to the county.
Yeah.
They're going right across town with the same retirement, and they can get a better job with the sheriff's office, or they can get a better job with Brad out the garbage, and that's why.
We have a police officer now, one, making $15 an hour, but she can step right out of that front door and take a right, and if the sheriff's department would hire, she could go to $21, $22 an hour. You have tippers that are not, to me, is not making less than minimum wage. Of course, if they get their CDLs or Class A's, they can get a 50 cent, $1 here, and that's something there. But, that's the problem now that we have, and that Bardstown has always had, is that trying to retain, and I'll use police officers as an example, is it's hard to retain or get officers to come here and actually stay, because they're starting out at well, like I said, one's been here 3 years, still making $15 an hour.
Yeah, I understand.
That's unheard of.
So is this 4% designed to get the tippers to $14?
Yes.
Okay. So the argument is, if they get the 4% and we give somebody else less than,
And just so to remind everybody that the reason we're here today in part is so that we can have first reading on a definitive ordinance a week from today.
Right.
So it needs to be, I understand looking into it, but I think what we're trying to do is develop consensus here so that instead of let us know about this and this, I don't know how that would translate into having a finite ordinance next week.
well, if there are only 2 items that we don't have agreement on, she could write it one way or another, and then we can you can make a motion.
Yes, we did the amend.
As long as it's not 16 of them, that's why I was trying to get the one
Yeah,
that we
that's
agree
true.
with. And if
You're
there's
right.
one or two that we still maybe want to think about, she can write it one way or another, and then.
Maybe put the
That's-
higher number like you were talking about with
Yeah.
dispatch.
And then, I mean, I just picked 3% and 2% as a way to reduce the budget. I guess I'm kind of looking for somebody to push back and say, no, that's not going to work, because the garbage tippers are only getting whatever. So I don't want our garbage tippers leaving, I don't want our police leaving. So with that explanation, I mean, I would still be okay with 3% and 4% if we make some of these other cuts especially. So I want our people to be paid fairly, and right now, their wages are lower than the surrounding, I mean, they are. It's
true.
You know, quit tipping garbage for a week and you'll see.
Well, I understand that they have a very difficult job, and when they come down my street, if I'm there, I try and get them some water or something, and I know it's tough, and I'm not trying to be, I'm just trying to look at numbers, and I'm very sensitive to how hard they work, so I just want to just see some numbers, because I think our budget's going to look better with some of the things that we're talking about here, because it wasn't gloom and doom, but it was looking like gloom there for a while. And so with these other things we're talking about, we can look at some numbers. You can put that on a separate sheet, right?
Yeah, I can do it 100 ways till Sunday.
Yeah, so we can,
Well, why don't we, if we can
Just
agree,
for itself.
since we're back, let's just leave in what's in there now. It's 3% and 4%.
And then she have an alternative numbers to potentially
Yeah.
amend with.
Right.
yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Okay, what else do we have? Bobby talked about the digger truck. Nobody else piped up on it. Does anybody else think we should not have the digger truck?
I think we should. It's 22 years old.
I think we should.
Okay. I
I'm
would say-
not disagreeing with Bobby saying about it being in good shape. but
And
it's-
Bobby can, and so I'm going to suggest for purposes of the,
Can I make a comment about the digger truck?
all right.
And it's no disrespect to Councilman Simpson at all, but the day that the guy hit the transformer, our digger truck was in the shop. We had to scrounge around to find one, and we ended up finding somebody to let us use it in order to take that pole off of that car.
Well, let me say this, the old digger truck will not be gotten rid of. It will be transferred to the water and sewer department to go help lift those aerators out of the lagoons, which that's what they use the digger truck for that now. You need some water, Ms. Copeland?
No.
Okay. So, anyway, so therefore, it won't be gotten rid of. That's the department that it will be given to.
Well, can we use that money we got back from the FEMA refund?
I mean, basically, that's gonna go back as cash in the bank, and you're at the end of the year with your audit, all that goes back into reserve, so the money is gonna be there for it.
Okay.
I mean, you can look at it.
Is that going to help our cash on hand?
It was well over $300,000.
Is that reflected in the budget?
Huh?
Is that reflected in the budget?
It was in this year's budget. We had it budgeted at 300,000. I think we came in around 343. So we got back to
and only other thing I had was to go back and talk about the uniforms, the 20 grand for the uniforms. Who's,
I said no on
I
it,
said no too.
because they've been using these other uniforms, and we're talking about sending out for cleaning and so forth. I think we can wait a year on it.
anybody else have an opinion on that? I'm okay with leaving it out. Okay.
What about the groundskeeper? I have that listed here.
That's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said that first thing I said,
Oh, sorry.
after the,
Councilman Butler said that it should be,
I'm sorry.
What about the groundskeeper for Main Street?
no, that's what you're talking about.
everything you said.
No, I thought there were two groundskeepers involved.
You said it was never initially.
Well, that was never put in. Okay, strike the ground.
What you're saying, the groundskeeper that risk manager Greg Ashworth wants is out.
Yeah.
But also, you're not going to put in the budget for the groundskeeper that Main Street and Tourism wants. If they want it, they should fund it and hire that person themselves, right? Okay.
And that's
Just
all
get
I had
clarification.
on, that's all I had, unless I missed something.
And I get a clarification. The current digger truck, if we buy a new one, the current one is going to be sold to water sewer or just sewer?
I would say do it to, well, Larry, would you think water and sewer?
They'll both use it.
Yes.
We can split it with them.
So we'll split it and then expense line item as a transfer.
Would be 10,000 feet.
And then finally, I talked about the revenue side of things, is some, as far as replacing utility dividends in this budget with, correct me if I'm wrong here, Tracy, if I say something wrong, we could replace that with general fund revenue with an assumption of some revenue stream that's above what we are now anticipating.
Correct.
But then we would, or is the simpler way, just leave it as it is and then make that change in the fall?
Well, I would probably leave it as is unless you had something you were starting right away. That way you could switch the revenue in the fall if
Yeah.
something changed.
Okay. Which we wouldn't be required to change the budget, to change the revenue
Now,
stream.
you can leave that divot in there, but you don't have to transfer that money over.
Yeah, right. But we could make the change just to document if we make a change on the revenue stream. We could.
Yes, you can.
Okay. But so we'll leave that as it is for now. All right. I'm done.
Is there anything, anybody else, some item that they didn't hear mentioned that they want to advocate for or against?
You all didn't decide on dispatch amount?
That higher number's in it, isn't it?
Yes, and
I know, but you all talked about bringing it down, so I didn't know.
Well, the amount that the county indicated now is,
159 and 57.
I thought there was a lower.
Yeah, but you gotta add those add-ons that the county's gonna throw in there on that. You gotta add that.
And what about
The CAD and all that, so you got to throw that, the 159 is not gonna cover that.
50,000.
So it's 154 is what they quoted as for our 60/40,
Well,
But you also have Zucker that you're gonna have to pay for.
right?
You got.
That's not in there.
And then that's 50,000 for that, and then,
The repeater.
$20,000.
20,000 repeaters in there.
The repeater's in there.
Okay.
And the police department.
All right.
$20,000 is in the repeater? I mean, the repeater's in the police department's budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do we?
Y'all want to entertain the notion of adding the fees with tax bill?
We wouldn't do that as part of the, budget.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, so.
No, that would be an ordinance, and I think it's probably almost a technicality, quite frankly. I mean, it's gonna be on there anyway, because the county's gonna have it on there, but
So
I think you need to ordinance.
So let's answer her question. It's 154 plus, was it 50?
50,000 for Zucker?
So
Yeah, you're still about 257,000
and then 6,000 for
maintenance.
the maintenance. So you've got the license of 50,000 and the maintenance of 6,000 a year.
Larry,
56 plus.
when they have meetings, I have $144,000 right here. That's when they have meetings, May the 26th. And they calculated $144,000. Do you have that?
I didn't go to the,
I know it. I have a
I
copy.
used to go to the fiscal.
They have a copy of the total amount cost for the 911, $935,000. Then they calculated down what they're gonna charge, and they took 40% of that, $144,020.
But Councilman Lennon, when dispatch give us their budget, it was
Well,
Well, I'll tell you what,
$257,000.
I would be willing to go with the lower number.
this is a lower number.
Well, I haven't seen that. I haven't received
Well,
that.
I have it here. It's $144,020. That's, they voted on that. So you need to calculate from this figure here, you need to,
is the Nelson County Fiscal Court
yeah,
running the dispatch thing
this is Nelson County Dispatch 911.
from the dispatch board?
Or is that from fiscal court?
Well, from fiscal court, I mean, they go to dispatch, that's what they approve.
I think
Well, if you're saying that the fiscal court runs the dispatch, then I...
Well, they pay, they make sure it's funded, and they got the total amount here. Revenue needed for 2016 and 2017 budget, $935,000. That's what they got. And they calculated on down, for 40% will be $144,020 for Bardstown.
It's
So,
fine with me for
Councilman
users.
Lillian, you're suggesting I put 144,020 for the transfer to E911.
That's what they got.
I would say leave the other number there as well. We got something, rather figure high and we can come down, rather than
Councilman, can I
figure
see
low
that?
and then have to go back up.
So,
I haven't seen that.
so we're gonna do 159 again plus 56?
I think that the consensus is leave the higher number and shoot for something lower.
Non-salary.
154 plus 56.
154.
Yeah, it was never 159, I don't think it was 154.
154 plus 56.
Well, yeah, if they do it for 144, I'm off of that.
What?
If they do it for 144 and we'll just take it, that's no more,
Well, Larry, I'll give you
Go
a copy.
ahead, Mr. Simpson.
My big, well, I'll get you a copy.
Right, I've got something to send to you too, Francis.
Well, God bless you.
Go ahead, Councilman.
I wanted to go back to Fred's first proposal that he was talking about and yours. I think you had in there to take out the transfer from electric and what have you till you found out something down the road. I'm saying leave it in there till you find something out down the road.
Yeah, that's what we are. We agree, that's what we're gonna do. Just leave it in just like it's written. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
We don't need a motion.
Go ahead, do that.